According to international statistics, more than 20 to 30% or even 50% of elderlies are feeling lonely around the world, in Singapore as well. And younger people who's also feeling lonely is not just because they're more connected online, but in fact these relationships are often not authentic or genuine, and that type of connection actually can lead you towards downward social comparison, therefore creating more loneliness. The WHO has reported that loneliness will be one of the major public health issues in the coming years, if not already. And it will lead to a great deal of loss, not just productivity, but also in terms of financial cost. We know that art can be a great conduit towards reducing loneliness because it builds connection, it actually helps people find greater meaning and purpose in life. In an earlier study that we were supported by NAC conducted in 2017, we conducted the Asia first ever stratified random household survey with 1,067 people in Singapore, looking at what art does to people, looking at if people actually attended the arts or just participate in the arts, what can that do without going through a standardized program. And what we found was that just by going to a concert and listening to a concert can enhance your quality of life as well as your social connectedness. By participating and actually engaging in the arts, it actually leads you to feel more meaningful and purposeful in life. And these are not just significant, but highly robust in terms of the impact that it brings to the community. Through that study, we also conducted numerous focus groups asking older folks, what would you like to do if we were to create a program for you? And they said, well, telling stories is actually very helpful. We all love to tell a story. Not only is this a favorite pastime of people, but it can actually lead to a process called identity processing that allow us to tell our story, and every time we tell our story, it helps us to build identity, help us to feel more of who we are, and enhancing our sense of personhood. We also found that internationally and regionally, intergenerational art program has been proven to be very helpful. And when we put all of these things together, we then developed something called Artisan, which was again supported by the National Art Council. And we worked together with the National Museum of Singapore, as well as Touch Community Services and numerous polytechnics to create this program in a co-constructive process. And what this does is really to bring together youth and seniors of these two generations of the community who are facing loneliness and mental health issue under the starlights of galleries and museums, and help them to build connection through the arts and also through storytelling. So Artisan is short for aspiration and resilience for intergenerational storytelling and art-based narrative, and therefore Artisan for short. This makes it a lot easier. It's a 5-week intervention, and each week we meet for 3 hours in the gallery, and these seniors and these youth does not know each other. The first time they met is in the gallery. And what we did is we created a 5-week program, and each week we focus on a different topic. In week 1, we focus on games and fun that we do as a child. So in the National Gallery, in National Museum, there's a section, an installation talks about the games that we played as a child. And we brought the seniors and the youth in the group to that spot and listened to the national story that was told by the docent in the museum. Once they heard that story, they have a connection, they talk about their own experiences, and we bring them back to a space in the museum, in the gallery, so that they can actually do art together, create an art piece that represent fun. And they tell a story about themselves to each other, and they build that connection. In week 2, we follow the same structure, but this week we look into strengthening social bonds. So the relationship that you have in your community, in your family, and in greater society. Do a piece of art, tell your story, and connect. In week 3, we talked about resilience and adversity. And each one of these themes have a designated installation in the museum that tells that national story. For example, in week 3, there's an installation in the National Museum that talks about how Singapore wanted very desperately to be part of Malaysia, but it didn't happen. And a founding father went on national TV and cried. And that was the adversity that we faced. 60 years later, we're one of the most advanced, technologically advanced and affluent society in the world. Resilience. Having heard that resilience story, we then go back to the art space and create an art piece that resembles my resilience and resembles my adversity that I have overcome. And then again, telling each other that story. In week 4, we talk about future aspiration and dreams. What do I want to do? How would I like to play a role in the future development of Singapore? Creating not just an individual art piece, but a collective art piece that everybody has a voice in. And finally, in week 5, we bring all of these art pieces that was created in the museum back in the community where the senior resides and host a public exhibition for them. So this was the program, and obviously as a social scientist, we just don't create programs and think that it works. So we created a research that uses the gold standard to assess any type of intervention, whether you are using a drug trial, whether you're using a psychotherapy, or an art intervention like this. And our goal is to really empower seniors and youth to create social change, to create more engagement with the community, as well as to potentially create this as a program that is sustainable for the long haul. We ran a randomized control trial with 68 participants, including 35 youth and 36 seniors. We randomized them into an intervention group and a waitlist control group. And what that means is before they actually receive anything, both groups get assessed on a series of psychometrics, including quality of life, including depression, including resilience, social connectedness, and so on. Then the intervention group get the intervention for 5 weeks, the control group gets nothing, and then we assess them again 5 weeks later to see if there's any changes in their mental wellness. If there is, with everything considered equal, then the change must be due to the intervention itself. After that, the waitlist control group that received nothing in the past weeks then received the Artisan intervention, so everybody benefits. And then we assess them a third time to see for the intervention group that received the intervention for the first 5 weeks and then having nothing for the next 5 weeks, are those potential positive benefits being maintained? Can the intervention not just last for 5 weeks, but 5 weeks later still elevate someone's mental health? And what we discovered is that by comparing the intervention group and the control group, we discovered that those who completed the intervention experienced significant improvement in quality of life immediately after the intervention, with an effect size of 0.53. For those who are interested in statistics, this is of significance, because effect size tells us how impactful and far-reaching an intervention can be. It ranges from 0-1 to all the way to 1 and 2 and so on. And I can give you a frame of reference. The New England Journal of Medicine published a paper back in 2013, and it tells us what is the effect size of antidepressants for the treatment of depression, Prozac, which is the most widely prescribed antidepressant in the world. And what do you think the effect size of Prozac would be compared to 0.53 that we discovered here? Would it be higher? Would it be lower? Lower. Effect size 0.26 is what Prozac does for people. Art, without any side effects, is 0.53. All right? So we did a 5-week follow-up to see if those intervention effects maintain 5 weeks later, and we discovered, yes, of course it does. People experience that 5-week intervention, their life satisfaction continued to maintain at a high level, effect size 0.47. Not only that, they were able to experience greater sense of resilience, as well as a reduction in loneliness, effect size going all the way up to 0.61. We looked at youth and to see what happened to them. They experienced more improvement in quality of life, as life satisfaction. Effect size 1.31. That's 5 times more than what antidepressant can do for us in terms of uplifting our mental wellness. It also enhances their national identity. They feel more connected to this country, and they're a stronger sense of national heritage. And for our older folks, they are able to experience continuous improvement in quality of life, reduction in loneliness, effect size 0.83, and also enhanced resilience, greater performance under stress, and much more engaged with the community. These are statistics, but what people tell us is also critically important, because we believe that statistics are important, narrative are important, so let's see what they have to say after completing the intervention. Well, they told us that it really helped them to build resilience and build capacity. One of our 71-year-old female artists says that, I realize that even at this age, there's so much that I can learn and can find confidence in trying new things, creating new things. She is 71 years old. Can you imagine yourself being 71 and still want to try new things every single day, feeling confident and rejuvenated and alive? It also helped them to build nationhood. One of our 23-year-old participants says that, I get to learn about the past of Singapore, our forefathers' contribution, and how hard it was for Singapore to get here. I like the touching story told by all of our senior participants. This is an intervention that connects strangers together. And after 5 weeks, they became family. Not only they became family, their families became families, friends too. It also helped us to build social connectedness and experience a sense of gratitude. One of our 64-year-old artists says that, I have a greater appreciation of working with and together with youth. Artisan has broken the intergenerational barrier. I think that's pretty much revealing and telling of what we can do in a 5-week program. There obviously is a video that I won't have time to share with you, but you can definitely go online, go on our Facebook page, go on our research page, and that video is readily available for you. I don't want to take up any more of your time, and thank you so much for having me.
I hope all of you are excited about working with bringing seniors and youth together. I think that was the challenge that I posed to Andy. How do we, as National Arts Council is part of the MCCY, and MCCY is about strengthening bonds. And our challenge to Andy was, old people hang out with old people, we often say, and youth hang out with the youth, but can we bridge this? And then, does it make a difference whether it's someone from your family, someone outside? Can we make new friends? Right? And then after that, I challenged him with, okay, how do I know it's not just people enjoy hanging out together? How do I know it's really the arts? And so this is part of the wonderful work that Andy's done. Okay, so we have gone from psychology. Okay, everybody give Andy a big hand again. Okay, we're going to move from psychology to the other side, which is about documentation. So not only does our research grant try to push frontiers forward, we're also about making sure that the foundations are in place, that we document art processes and the creativity that is present in our nation. So Azrin is here to talk about his Malay dance and how he's done it to sort of like understand and make sure that, the creative processes and the art form is not forgotten, because as we know, we are all built on the foundations of our ethnic identity. But just as we recognize our past, we also celebrate our united future. Okay, Azrin, take it away. Azrin is also a dance practitioner, so those interested in learning dance from him, feel free. As coming here, you get the freebie is a free dance course. Yes.
Thank you, Sharon. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Azrin Abdul Rahim. I'm also the Executive Director for Era Dance Theatre. So this is actually an offshoot of Era Dance Theatre because we wanted to work on the academic side of things. Over the years, nothing has been documented well. In fact, nothing has been documented. So we feel that it's important to set up something and look into things properly. And I think this is one of the research which NAC correctly supported. All right, history of Malay dance in Singapore. So where did Malay dance actually come from? All right, Singapore, I don't know, where do I start, So I go right back, and it's the 13th century, where we know Sang Nila Utama. Right. But nothing was written about dance in the palace. Nothing was written about arts in the palace. 13th century to 18th century, zero literature on whatever was happening on the Malay side in Singapore. Nothing, right? So we had to infer, right? So we did a lot of inferring. Obviously, there were a lot of stuff written about Indonesia, the Javanese, in Sulawesi, in Malaysia and everything. So we had to infer from that. But we want to go back, right back, and it's going to be the glorious days, the 100 years of Malay rule in Singapore, all right? And that would be in the 13th century. Okay, so why did we embark on this research? Well, there were so many things written about Malay dance, and Malay dance was actually beginning to become a commodity. So people were actually making money out of it, but when you ask them actually, what do they know about Malay dance, many don't really have a grounding of where it came from and all that. While people know that the Malay dance, when we talk about Malay dance, there's actually 5 types lah. You do the Asli, Inang, Joget, Zapin, which is very popular, and Masri, and also a bit of Silat inside there. But like I said, nothing much was written, so we had to go in and try to understand the influences of the Arabs in Zapin, and then we were looking at, how did the Malay dance impacted actually or played a role in politics, in Singapore, especially during the 1560s, First Singapore became self-rule, 1957, 1959 came in to power, and then 59 to 65, a lot of things happened, and there was this bombing 37 times. Singapore was bombed in the Konfrontasi, Indonesia, bombed Singapore. You guys know about that? Yeah, interesting, right? They were just not agreeable to the merger of Singapore and Malaysia, Malaya. And also the yellow culture. Yeah, this was more in the 50s, right? Impact of the yellow culture, any other culture that was not something that came out from your country, right? So whatever Western culture, that came in and how it influenced the local culture, and that also we wanted to know. And so that basically inspired that. There were other also reasons, but I think these three is good enough for us to get into this research. Research questions, well, what's the early history of Malay dance in Singapore before the 20th century? The rationale that was used in the history of Malay dance in Singapore for the transition from one dominant motif to another over time. What role did various parties, especially peranakan and instructors from Sumatra, play in the development of Malay dance in Singapore? Okay, so research questions were there. So what we did was we did a chronology of what took place. 1950s, we call it the discovery era. Before late 1800s, right? You had already bangsawan, the opera troops from Indonesia coming into Singapore. All right, so they brought in the dance. Okay, so it became still in the early 1900s. You still have these bangsawan groups. A lot of these Malay performing arts, more on the ethnic side, right? From all over the archipelago, they came in, all because of money, because Singapore was thriving city, everybody was gathering here. So we had a lot of this bangsawan thing, and you guys know that, we also have an opera estate in the Bedok area, right? So and the lanes, the roads are named after bangsawan, the people in bangsawan. So 1930s, 1938, NAFA was established, and of course when NAFA was established, the arts started to bloom, I think, but they didn't have a dance faculty at that time, not in 1938. Sauti is a famous name. This Sumatran guy who created Serampang 12, which is basically the basic Malay dance that is used until today in Singapore and in Malaysia, but more in Singapore. So this guy, actually Sauti, was commissioned by the president to come up with a national dance. Same idea, you use dance to unite people. Okay, so they wanted to have a national dance. So he created a dance piece. And this dance piece, Serampang 12, is actually a couple dance. Alright, so it's male-female. But then the thing is that for practice and to come up with the choreography, he didn't have a female partner. So he had another guy. So you had, while creating the choreography, there were these two guys that was working out on the works. So it has, of course, it impacted in terms of the movement and all that. But yes, we had Serampang 12 in 1938. Now, 1950s, you're looking at the pioneering era where the islands, we have the southern islands, right? Singapore, southern islands, there were a lot of people still staying in the islands at the time. They had this group, Pemuda-Pemudi Pulau Brani, who actually created their own cultural troupe. Then 1955, Sri Wana, which is one of the oldest Malay Cultural Association in Singapore, was formed, and they then brought in Indonesian instructors to come in. Okay, 1959, PAP came to power, first multicultural arts festival in Singapore. Aneka Ragam Rakyat. Okay, this very important event, ARR, because that was like the key event that the government used, okay, to promote unity and cohesion in Singapore at that time. So Aneka Ragam Rakyat is a community variety show. Okay, so it started already in 1959, right? So the government already started using Aneka Ragam Rakyat, introducing all the ethnic dance inside there. Okay, everybody gathered, and then the first time was done, 22,000 people. Okay, they gathered. It was done at Botanic Gardens. All right. 1960 political era. Okay, this is where the turmoil started lah. First cultural festival in Singapore, and there was a National Theatre Trust, if you all still remember, and now no more already, it's gone, flattened. 1962, Cultural Festival 62. This was to celebrate the merger of Singapore and Malaysia, all right, but also at that time, a lot of racial tensions. Okay, there were obviously the socialist front, which the government felt was causing problems. And 63, government launched the cold store operations, where they arrested 100 over people who were accused of being the members of the socialist front. Then, of course, at the same year, because they started planning for this cultural festival, Southeast Asia Cultural Festival in 1960. So 1963, when they wanted to launch the festival, right, the mood wasn't really that great, lah. All right, yeah, so bad timing. Okay, after 1960s, next slide. Then we go to the popularization era, 1971. The PA Dance Company, which was actually formed in 59, 60, if I'm not wrong, they engaged full-time dancers. Yeah. So that was like the beginning of dancers actually being paid for their performance. But, okay, because I was researching on Malay dance. Yes, they had full-time dancers, but they were not doing Malay dance lah. They were doing all sorts of dance. Okay, Western, modern, everything. All right, but important thing, they had full-time dancers. Then 1975, Malay dance with the company of Chinese music, and then this, Pemandangan Desa di Negeri Panas, which is the title of the performance, performed in conjunction with the Republic's 10th National Day. It was performed 1975. 1976, this very prolific guy, Long Cik Gani, who was the leader of Sriwana, he actually, government gave him the space, the platform to talk about Malay dance, and he actually explained how he was very happy lah, that the government actually supported Malay dance lah, because during that time, 50s, 60s, it was very difficult for people to enjoy any kind of performance because there were nobody dancing. The type of Malay dance that you have being performed in the 60s were mostly performed by Chinese dancers, and they were from NTU. Okay, these were the alumni, NTU's alumni. Okay, they performed, but then the government at that time already, were looking for where's the Malays that's doing this, So at that time, 50s, early 60s, they were interested in music, not so much of the dance. So that's why they brought in the choreographers from Indonesia, all right, to help to train local dancers. Okay, of course, 76. We were also talking about the idealists and the realists, because at that point in time, people were already saying because the Western dance, the cha-cha, mamba, everything, all those ballroom dance was already there. So, in order to get the public to be interested in Malay dance, which we all know, right, very slow, gentle, so they had to do this mixing, right, and that created a lot of tension also during, where people felt that you are actually tainting the Malay dance, that's not the original thing, that's not authentic and all that. Okay, then 1980s, this is the best part, I think, so far in the research. We found that it was in the 80s that somehow Malay dance in Singapore created its own identity, right? But still, again, not many people realized. In fact, the practitioners themselves still do not feel that they had something of their own, because while it started from the Indonesians who came in and taught us about Malay dance, by the 80s, we were already creating our own dance styles. Okay, and of course, also at that time, there was a problem of these Malay dance movements. The guy movements and the male and female movements were the same, and it caused a lot of problem. The guys actually pulled out because they felt it was too feminine. So, in order for it to change, right, the choreographer actually brought in silat movements. So, not only he brought in the silat movements, he brought in all the silat exercises. So this somehow gave the boost for the sports people, footballers at that time, to want to dance. Because the choreographers actually brought them to do all the pumping, running, going up and down the stairs. So they felt it was like a physical workout, only after 3 sessions, then they started to show the dance movement. But then by that time, these people were already conditioned, they were ready. So that changed the mindset. So from the Malay guys, Malay boys who didn't want to come in, when they saw how the choreographer, conducted the training, right, changed their mindset. And then we started to have more male dancers. Okay, but 82, 83, you see, we still were relying on the Indonesian instructors to help us. Okay, then go to 1990. This is where the internationalization era came in. Last dance festival was held in 1991. A number of art events in Singapore were incorporated into the FAPA, Festival of Asian Performing Arts, which was supposedly to be held twice a year. Obviously, by that time, Malay dance was already known, right? What's interesting is that while everybody, there was a lot of demand for Malay dance performances. And every time when the requests come in from Malay dance, they always ask for something new. Okay, so, in the 50s, 60s, they got tired of Malay dance because it was repetitive. You see one dance, you've seen it, you see one performance, you've seen it all. So in the 90s, the request was, can you come up with something different, something new, So they came up with a lot of new stuff, okay, which we call new creation works. And then these new creation works, actually, if you look at it, were based or were very grounded to the, the traditional dance itself. But the choreographers gave it a twist, put in, in terms of music, they boost up the beat, So you have it, a performance which was more lively. And by that time, we felt that we were missing these large gatherings of participants, of enthusiasts. In the 90s, they had this dance festival. So every ethnic group, you will have the Chinese dance festival, Indian dance festival, right? Malay dance festival. But then after that, 2000, no more really. So we felt, hey, we're missing this thing. So it's difficult to bring back, interest if you don't have this kind of gatherings. So 2010, the first big scale festival came, was organized by Era Dance Theatre, was done at the Malay Heritage Centre. It's called Zapin di Muara. 2011, Esplanade requested that a similar festival of that size to be held at the Esplanade Theatre. Of course, there was a lot of pitching and all that. It took us like 5 years, at least 5 years before Esplanade agreed to actually host the Muara Festival at Esplanade, which is this year will be in its 13th year. So I guess that was one of the success stories for the Malay dance, right? Then 2012, you have the Zapin. Okay, let's go. 2010 out. Okay, this is just development. The big scheme, if you look, influence of Singapore government, Indonesian government. From the Singapore side, at that time, early stages, Ministry of Culture was involved, People's Association, 1959-1960, National Theatre Trust. Then there was Geylang Serai Malay Village. I don't know whether you all still remember or not. Now it's called Wisma Geylang Serai. Geylang Serai Malay Village was a mock-up of supposedly to be the Malay village, right? Was planned in the 80s. It only happened in 1989, and 1989 was given to Majlis Pusat to actually use the space, that area, okay, for a Malay Cultural Month. It was a 1 month thingy. And of course, the Majlis Pusat, which has a lot of I think about 20-30 Malay organizations under them. Okay, they had all the leaders there, but it was difficult to decide who to run the place, right? Oh, okay. Anyway, okay. So what's factors influencing Malay dance in Singapore? So you look, Indonesia, Malaysia, Portugal because of the joget, okay, the branyo, okay, so that's from Malacca, right? So we know that. And then of course the Peranakan culture is so important. How the Chinese Peranakans, right? their style, their uniqueness, okay, also had blended into, this acculturation, right? It blends into the Malay culture also. Tourist, religion, okay, all these things are there. Let's go. Okay, key findings. Right. Okay, cultural intimacy. So this is the problem, they say. Because we are so close to Indonesia, right? That is why we don't have our own identity. Right? Because everything we do is like, it's like, no, I cannot do more than them. I mean, they are like big brothers to us, that kind of thing. Cultural intimacy was the theory that was used to explain why Singapore has not yet developed its own Malay identity, or Malay dance identity for that matter. Of course, obviously there were the internal and external factors, everything, from politics, the what do you call that, the social aspects of, in the early years, the Malays were not that rich, they were poor a lot, so the arts actually gave opportunities, for them. But practical implications, okay, this I think is where the research plays an important role, right? We need to see how we can grow and move and expand, right? Based on the research, there were so many things that was happening from outside influencing us. We feel that there are areas that we need to look into, okay? That local choreographers with the talent that they have, the creativity that they have, why not look into working on creating new dance pieces based on districts, geographical locations in Singapore? For example, you can have like a Bukit Merah dance, whatever that dance is going to be. Again, depending on the history of the area, okay? We can, today, actually, the more senior choreographers like Som Said, she has already created this dance called Zapin Teluk Belanga. Osman Hamid has created dance Sungai Kalang, Azmi Johari has his Zapin Kais, which is probably from his experience in the kampung. So it has been done, but I think we need to push this further. All right, so that we can actually develop something on our own, which is truly a Singapore piece. And of course, the paradigm shift. Okay, this idea of the taxi dance halls, where in the 50s, parents today still have that thinking. So you join Malay dance, you like, you're gonna be like, this is the problem. You see. You're gonna be like those people. No, cannot. No Malay dance for you. Okay, you go to the mosque, go to the madrasah. It's difficult, But we need to change this mindset. Malay dance today is no more like that. All right. Okay. So how we do it? There should be some standardization. Until today, there is still no standardization of the Malay dance. So sad, right? Okay, so that's going to be the research. That's going to be my next research work. Okay, standardization of Malay dance. We have to do it. Without standardization, you cannot do assessment. Without assessment, any parent who wants to send their kids for Malay dance will think twice. I mean, how do I know what standard this whether my son or my daughter has attained? Right? Standardization is one. Then we need to give cause. There must be a cause for people to want to come in. So I'm saying that Malay dance need to have these causes. We must look at the application, the apply of Malay dance. How do you apply Malay dance? I'm looking at 3 areas. One, education, early childhood, possibly. Then healthcare, which we are already doing, and also elder care. All right, use Malay dance. In fact, we plan to create a framework where we can use Malay dance as that, but then Malay dance can be changed with any other ethnic dance. We'll come out with that soon. Yeah, in the next 3 years, hopefully, if NAC supports the research. Okay. Okay. So we have discovery, pioneering, political, popularisation. All right. Then the next slide. This is how we see it. 2020, if the standardization takes place, right, 2020 is going to be the standardization of Malay dance in Singapore. Then we're looking at 2030s to be the decentralization era where we can have choreographers to agree, let's work on new creation works based on districts. It can be based on electoral boundaries, it can be based on the CDCs, the kind of areas. Yes, 1 more minute. Okay, research limitations, you guys know, okay. Qualitative studies have limitations in generalizing, okay, right? Latest developments, yes. We good. Wisma Geylang Serai is going to be the next Malay hub, all right? Okay. Conclusion. I think a lot has been said about this. We know for sure there's so much things to do. The history of Singapore, history of Malay dance in Singapore is so long and so varied that there's a lot of space for more research to take place, right? I believe other people can do that part lah. For us, we want to move forward and look at the more interesting areas, standardization and the development, right? Okay, terima kasih. That's it, done.
Okay, stay with us because the next one is really important because she talks about how we evaluate ourselves as artists, and it's a multidimensional framework that we are very proud to have supported. Felicia, next.
Hi everyone, I'm going to on the lights, okay, so that we all wake up. Okay, I only have 3 slides. I thought I have 5 minutes, I'll do it in 4. Okay, so my notes are in my pocket. Right, Person Standard Framework, what is it? On the left is a visual image of 4 different dimensions, which I put together. Now, the research was done, the grant was granted, thank you NAC, in 2016, and at that time I had 16 years of experience with arts, working in with children, youth, Kaki Bukit Prison School, those with special needs, the White Stars, and seniors. Over the 16 years, I always wondered, is there a way to value the arts beyond numbers? Because you don't go to school, right? Then your O-level results number. Then after you get out, then after you got to figure out how to sell your work is a number. There must be another way to value the arts. And of course, with the work that I did, first as an art teacher in Carlton Convent, I found that definitely the arts, and then with drama as well, had a wide range of values. So the question was, how do you map out the value to articulate why the arts is significant to have across the lifespan? And it's a need to have, it's not a nice to have. Okay? So, oh, a bit too fast. What did I do? My research was not really based on, well, it was based on, yes, my work in a Chen home. So it's a 6-month study, and subsequently I created a tool. So this research, right, was not to evaluate straight away just one singular project or program. It was meant to create a tool that I could then use and show others how to use to answer all those questions there. Who, what, how, what, why. Okay? So all these dimensions, and I'll explain it in a bit each dimension, will be able you to map out all these, the answers to all these questions. And by the time you get to the why is your program important, you'll find that you'll be able to articulate every single thing that you did objective, how you did it, and how you know it works or does not work, because all our programs will never be perfect. There will always be areas of improvement. And that's the other thing I want to find out and to be able to do. How can we improve on our programs for our communities? And so when you get to the why and articulate all of that, you sound very intelligent. You sound like you know exactly what you're doing. So what happens then? The organization very happy, right? The school will be very happy. They will say that, yeah, I want you to come back next year. You have sustainability, you have advocacy straight away. And your livelihood, your rice bowl will be on the table for the next year. That's what this tool is for. Okay? So, dimensions. Normally, when we go for counseling or therapy, the personal dimension is then covered. Now, the personal dimension, right? So how did I do this research? I drew from psychology, philosophy, and spirituality on the left. Okay? Now, you notice that there are stages of growth. Foundational, maturing, and mature. And again, this is one way to pitch and plot that the arts is relevant across the lifespan. All right, so on the left, we have more of the therapy, counseling approach. On the right is what we do in schools, educational psychology, right? Thinking skills. And again, it is across different stages of growth. And of course, my whole plan is to say that, you know, the arts can do all of this, right? So, for example, right, let's take seniors. Making pineapple tarts. Some amount I can map, right? Because you know why? You see, I can get a group of seniors to sit at a table and make pineapple tarts for 2 hours. Cost me nothing, just the pineapple and the flour. Why should the organization pay you $150 an hour to work with the seniors? Can you answer that question? You better be able to if you want to be paid $150 an hour, right? use my framework. Because I swear it works. I'm still working for a lot of people now. Yeah, after, and it's 2023 already. Okay, so right, the other dimension is social dimension. Where did I draw from for this? I believe it was social psychology and politics, believe it or not. Care and empathy. I went to the political science shelf in NUS. Literally, I walked around and I saw, oh, care ethics. Pull out the book. Okay, so it's a combination of these academic areas. And then, of course, we got the cultural dimension, which is not set in stages, right? But it's more for us to have, we have to be very, very aware when we're working with any group. Cultural dimensions of language, popular culture, the kind of music they like, identity, right? And this is based on different roles. So you can have a senior who is a father, who's a son of somebody, who's the CEO, ex-CEO of some place. All these roles, very, very important when you work with them. Okay, aesthetics, right, which is basically not, the standard Western beauty aesthetics norms, but more aesthetics based on different communities and what they feel is beautiful to them. And how do we help these communities articulate that and assert that as their forms of beauty? And of course, you got the politics of representation, especially if you're working with marginalized groups, right? You don't want to end up stereotyping. How do you learn to speak about what they need and what they should have, how they should be supported, without stereotyping, without creating more division? Okay, so the cultural dimension is not set in stages, but it's an overall view of the complex web of culture that surrounds every single group that we work with all the time. And if you end up working from children all the way to seniors, it's very important that you be able to distinguish this. Okay, so if you want to find out more, that I have a book on Amazon. So all of my research is published on Amazon at $4.99 US. Okay? Reason for this, could I have gotten it validated in an academic journal? Yes, I have some works doing that. Okay, but who has access to that? Okay, so a lot of my works are on Amazon, right, or Trafford Publishing. If you go there directly, you can buy the e-version for $4.99. I've also got a website, pennsylvaniaarts.com. I forgot to put it here. It's an abbreviated version of what you see here. It's for free. You can use it for free to design your own programs with objectives across the dimensions, and to also evaluate and write a report across the dimensions. If you want to find out how to use this better, I promise that I try my best to come out with workshops next year. Right? And if you're interested, right, you go onto the CCD, Community Cultural Dimensions Facebook page or Instagram, just join, and then there'll be a notice that pops up whenever I organize a workshop. Yeah? Okay, so that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Okay, so to put everything in context, I have three different speakers. One is a psychologist who is dealing with quantitative, like hard science, randomized controlled trials. I have a documenter who talks about history and identity and positions this in the locale of the country. And finally, we have Felicia, who's a teacher, who's actually come up with an early version of a logic model, or people call it theory of change. It is how to sell your work, and it's how to help you systematically think about what is the impact value that you're trying to achieve. Okay, so that's basically three. Researchers, hang out, email them with them if you want to find out more about their research or you want to partner them. Okay, so I'm going to hand it back to Natalia, who's like dying to go for her drink. She's trying to shoo me off now. Thank you everybody for your attention.
Thank you so much, all of you, for your attention, for your energy, for your time with us. Thank you so much, the National Arts Council, for organizing this event and leading it. Thank you, Lynette. I could hear you forever. You just talk, and it's so interesting and so engaging, and so I just felt like we are so privileged today to learn so much from you, and this information is abundant, right? So it's just, we are the first, so we are very lucky, guys. We are super lucky. So thank you for taking your time. Come here and tell us about the new plan of Singapore, the new arts plan, and what to research next. Thank you, Sharon, for facilitating such a great panel. I can tell the National Arts Council money spent very well, very well. I am so happy to see all these fascinating researchers who are so passionate about everything they are doing, and that has so amazing implications. So for the arts, for the audiences, for the communities in Singapore, thank you so much for coming here and sharing your energy and your research with us. That matters a lot to us. Thank you so much, everyone.